The state mailed me a form asking whether I was still willing to serve as the registered agent for a company my husband swore did not exist. 20 minutes later, I learned the company had been active for almost 2 years, had an office 40 minutes from our house, and was managed by Daniel and a woman named Marissa Cole. What I did not understand yet was why my name was attached to it, why money from our family had helped build it, or why Marissa believed I had approved everything. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday in late March. I remember the date because I had stayed home to meet a contractor about the addition we wanted to build over our garage. I am a municipal architect, so I had drawn the first version myself, a small bedroom, a bathroom, and a quiet workspace. Daniel and I told people the room was for guests, but privately we saw it as a way for my mother to live with us if her arthritis got worse. We had been saving for 3 years. The contractor was late. Our 6-year-old son, Noah, was at school, and I was standing at the kitchen counter comparing window estimates when the mail came through the slot. Most of it was ordinary. A grocery flyer. A water bill. A catalog addressed to the previous owner. Then I saw the seal of the North Carolina Secretary of State. The letter was addressed to Northline Vendor Solutions LLC, attention Claire Bennett, registered agent. I read it twice before opening it. My first thought was that someone had made a clerical mistake. My second was that Claire Bennett is not a rare name. Then I saw our full address beneath it. The notice said the company's annual report was due in 15 days. It asked me to confirm the registered office, certify that the company remained active, and report any changes in management. The listed managers were Daniel Bennett and Marissa Cole. Daniel is my husband. Marissa was nobody I knew. I called the number printed on the letter instead of the number in the envelope, because that is how my mind works when something does not fit. I verify the source before I trust the content. A woman named Janice answered and asked for the company identification number. I think my name was added by mistake, I said. Can you tell me when this was filed? She gave me the public record answer. Northline had been organized 22 months earlier. Its principal office was in Durham. Its registered office was my home in Cary. Daniel had filed the original paperwork online and listed me as the person who could accept official notices. Does being the registered agent mean I own part of it? I asked. Not necessarily, Janice said. Ownership details may be governed by documents that are not part of the public filing. You would need to ask the company or an attorney. Can someone name me without asking me? She paused. The company is responsible for maintaining an agent who has agreed to serve. If you did not agree, there is a resignation process. I can direct you to the form. I wrote down the website and thanked her. My hand was steady, but I had pressed the pen hard enough to leave an impression through 3 pages of my notebook. Daniel and I had been married for 9 years. He was 39, 2 years older than me, and worked in procurement for a regional medical supply distributor. He negotiated contracts, evaluated vendors, and complained that nobody understood how much money could disappear through a badly written purchasing agreement. He was organized in a way that made other people feel safe. If we needed a new refrigerator, Daniel built a spreadsheet. If Noah's summer camp required 6 forms, Daniel had them signed before I found the email. That competence was one of the reasons I had trusted him with most of our monthly bill payments. We both had access to everything, but we divided the work. I handled insurance, retirement contributions, and long-term planning. He handled utilities, credit cards, repairs, and transfers into the construction account. Every few months we sat down together and reviewed the totals. Nothing had ever looked alarming. The addition fund was growing more slowly than I hoped, but material costs had risen, Noah needed dental work, and life had a way of making reasonable plans expensive. Northline Vendor Solutions was not a reasonable expense I had forgotten. I opened the state business search page and entered the identification number. The company appeared immediately. Status, current active. Formation date, May 18, 22 months earlier. Daniel Bennett was listed as organizer and manager. Marissa Cole was listed as manager. The principal office was Suite 214 in a converted textile building in Durham. May 18 was easy for me to remember. Noah and I had spent that week with my mother in Asheville after her knee surgery. Daniel had stayed home because his company was conducting its annual inventory. Every night he had called us from our kitchen. I could picture the blue mug he held during one video call and the stack of takeout containers beside the sink. I had teased him about living like a college student without us. Apparently he had also created a company. I searched the name. Northline had a simple website with a gray and green logo and language about helping small manufacturers compete for institutional contracts. The home page said, procurement knowledge should not belong only to corporations. Under services, it offered vendor readiness reviews, bid preparation, pricing analysis, and contract support. Those were all things Daniel knew how to do. The About page was careful. It referred to our founders, but did not name them. There were no photographs, only a picture of two people looking at charts. The contact page listed the Durham office and a phone number with a local area code. I searched Marissa Cole. The first result was a LinkedIn profile. She had worked for Daniel's employer as a sales coordinator until 2 years earlier. Her profile now described her as co-founder and operations director of Northline Vendor Solutions. She was 34, based in Durham, and smiling in a professional photograph taken against a brick wall. I recognized her after a minute. 3 Christmases earlier, Daniel's department had held a dinner at a hotel near the airport. Marissa had been seated 2 tables away. I remembered her because she had helped me find a coat check after Daniel was pulled into a conversation with a supplier. She had been friendly. She had asked how old Noah was and said Daniel talked about him all the time. I did not remember Daniel introducing her by name. The contractor finally arrived, but I barely heard his explanation about roof pitch. I showed him the drawings, walked him around the garage, and wrote down numbers because writing numbers was easier than thinking about the envelope on my counter. He left after 40 minutes and promised an estimate by Friday. The moment his truck turned out of our driveway, I searched for Northline again. This time I added Marissa's name. A local Chamber of Commerce page came up. Northline had joined 9 months earlier. There was a photograph from a breakfast for new members. Daniel and Marissa stood in front of the same gray and green logo, each holding one end of an oversized certificate. He wore the navy jacket I had given him for our anniversary. She wore a dark red dress and rested one hand lightly against his back. The caption called them business partners. Business partners could touch. Former coworkers could start companies. Husbands could make reckless decisions without having affairs. I told myself each of those things because I did not want suspicion to become evidence just because I was frightened. Then I noticed the date of the breakfast. Daniel had told me he was in Charlotte that morning negotiating a packaging contract. He had sent me a photograph of traffic on Interstate 85 and complained that he would miss Noah's school assembly. Northline's event had taken place 12 minutes from our house. I downloaded the chamber photograph and saved it to a folder on my work laptop. Then I printed the state filing, not because I intended to confront him immediately, but because websites can change and paper does not disappear when someone clears a browser. At 3:15, Noah came home talking about a class experiment involving bean plants. I made him apple slices with peanut butter, checked his homework folder, and listened while he explained why his plant was growing sideways. The ordinary sound of his voice kept me from calling Daniel at work. Daniel arrived at 6:20 carrying Thai food and the easy expression he wore when he expected a normal evening. "Contractor come?" he asked as he set the bags down. "Yes. He thinks the structure will support the addition, but he wants an engineer to confirm." "That sounds expensive." "Probably." He kissed my cheek, asked Noah about school, and started placing containers on the table. I watched his hands. No shaking. No hesitation. He looked exactly like the man who had left that morning. I waited until Noah was upstairs taking a bath. Then I put the state notice beside Daniel's plate. He looked at the seal, then at the company name. For 1 second, his face went completely still. "What is Northline Vendor Solutions?" I asked. He did not pick up the paper. "Where did that come from?" "The state mailed it to me because I'm apparently the registered agent." Daniel leaned back. "I thought that thing had been dissolved." What thing? It was an idea. A consulting company. Marissa and I filed the paperwork, but we never really did anything with it. He said her name without asking who she was. I let that sit between us. The company is active, I said. It has an office. It joined the Chamber of Commerce. You attended an event on a day you told me you were in Charlotte. His eyes shifted toward the hallway, checking whether Noah could hear us. Keep your voice down. My voice is down. Claire, it was a side project. I should have told you. I didn't because it never became what we expected. Why am I the registered agent? We needed a stable mailing address. The office lease was month to month. I used the house and your name because you work for the city and you're always careful with official mail. He said it as if he had given me a compliment. You used my name on a company I knew nothing about. For notices. That's all. It doesn't make you liable for the business. The Secretary of State's office suggested I ask an attorney about that. His mouth tightened, and the calm explanation came faster. There is no reason to involve an attorney. We had maybe 3 small clients. It barely covered the office. Marissa has been winding it down. Why did you tell me you were in Charlotte when you were at a chamber breakfast in Durham? He looked at the photograph I had placed beneath the notice. Because I knew you would ask why I was spending time on this when we were already stretched thin. I was embarrassed. Did our money go into it? A little at the beginning. Filing fees, the website, maybe some office furniture. I paid most of it from my discretionary account. How much is a little? I don't know exactly. 2,000. Maybe 3. Daniel could tell me what we had paid for a dishwasher 7 years earlier. He did not forget numbers when the numbers were harmless. Are you having an affair with Marissa? I asked. His chair scraped the floor as he stood. No. The speed of the answer almost relieved me. Then he said, this is exactly why I didn't tell you. You take one thing you don't understand and build the worst possible version of it. He gathered the empty containers even though we had not finished eating. I did not argue. I did not tell him I had seen recent client reviews. I wanted to hear what version he would construct without knowing what I already had. That night, after Daniel fell asleep, I opened Northline's website again. Every tab redirected to a white screen saying the site was under maintenance. At 12:14 a.m., less than 6 hours after he had called the company inactive, Daniel had begun erasing it. I slept for perhaps 40 minutes. By 5, I was sitting in the laundry room with my laptop because it was the only place where the light would not wake anyone. I downloaded statements from the joint checking account and the savings account we called the Build Fund. I did not open Daniel's private email or guess passwords. I looked only at accounts that carried my name and that I had always been entitled to review. The savings balance was $46,280. I had expected it to be closer to $70,000. At first, the difference still looked explainable. We had replaced the air conditioner. We had paid the deductible after a tree damaged the fence. Then I sorted the withdrawals by recipient. Over 22 months, 17 transfers had gone from the Build Fund into Daniel's personal checking account. They ranged from $600 to $2,400 and totaled $21,640. I recognized some of the notes because Daniel had entered them himself: appliance deposit, engineer retainer, lumber reserve, permit estimate. None of those purchases had happened. The appliances had never been ordered. I was the architect, and no engineer had been retained. The permit application did not exist because I had not finished the structural drawings. There were also 5 payments from our joint checking account to a commercial credit card. The payee name was abbreviated NVS Card Services. Together they came to $4,380. Daniel's estimate of $2,000 or $3,000 was wrong by more than $20,000 before I had even seen his private account. I saved every statement in the folder with the public records. Then I opened my own credit report. No unfamiliar loans appeared under my name, which allowed me to breathe normally for the first time that morning. I placed a fraud alert anyway and changed the passwords on my personal banking and email accounts. I did not move money. I did not cancel cards. I knew enough about contracts to understand that panic can create a record as damaging as deception. At 8:10, Daniel texted me from work. "I'm sorry I got defensive. I'll bring home everything this weekend. You'll see it's just a failed business idea." I answered with one sentence. "Please include the operating agreement, tax returns, bank statements, client list, lease, and every transaction involving our household accounts." The typing indicator appeared, vanished, and appeared again. "That's excessive, Claire. But okay." At lunch, I called a family law attorney named Maya Patel. A colleague had used her during a difficult separation and described her as the least theatrical lawyer she had ever met. That sounded useful. Maya had a cancellation at 4:30. Her office was above a pharmacy in Raleigh, with children's drawings taped behind the receptionist's desk. I showed her the notice, the public filings, the chamber photograph, and the account statements. She read quietly for several minutes. "Do you want a divorce?" she asked. "I want to know what is true. Those are different projects. We can help you protect yourself before you decide the second one." She explained that being listed as registered agent did not automatically make me an owner or responsible for Northline's debts. It did mean official notices could be served at my home, and I should resign if I had never agreed to the role. She told me not to sign the annual report, not to contact Northline's clients, and not to present myself as a company representative. "Can I ask the bank where our money went?" "You can obtain records for accounts in your name. Do not access accounts that are not yours. Preserve what you already have. Don't drain the joint accounts, don't threaten him, and don't destroy anything." "What about Noah?" "Keep his routine steady. Whatever Daniel has done, don't use access to your son as leverage unless there is a genuine safety issue." Her advice was almost painfully ordinary. That helped. I had spent the day feeling as if my house had developed a second set of rooms behind the walls. Maya gave me doors I could close. Before I left, she asked one more question. "Do you know whether Northline has done business with your husband's employer?" "No." "Don't investigate their confidential systems. Just ask Daniel for the records. If there is a conflict of interest, that may explain why he hid the company. It does not prove an affair." On the drive home, I repeated that final sentence. It does not prove an affair. Before I left, Maya asked me to make a chronological list of every trip Daniel had taken since Northline was formed, but only from calendars and records I already had permission to see. She said a timeline would help separate facts from fears. I opened a new document in a parking lot and entered the first date, May 18th, the week Noah and I were in Asheville. For the first time, the lie had a measurable beginning. Daniel had made tacos with Noah by the time I got home. He behaved as if the previous night had been a disagreement about a forgotten subscription. After Noah went to bed, Daniel placed a thin blue folder on the kitchen table and told me it contained everything I had requested. Inside were Northline's formation document, a one-page operating agreement, a profit and loss report, and a lease for Suite 214. The operating agreement gave Daniel 51% of the company and Marissa 49%. The profit and loss report showed $12,000 in revenue over 22 months. The lease cost $1,400 a month. Even without utilities, insurance, software, and furniture, rent alone would have exceeded $30,000. "This report cannot be complete," I said. "Marissa handles the books." I asked her for a quick export. "Where are the bank statements?" "She needs time to pull them. You told me the company was being wound down. Why did you remove its website last night?" He rubbed both hands over his face. "Because I knew you would read normal marketing language like it was evidence of something dirty. 3 clients posted reviews this month. Old projects. They posted late. And the $21,640 transferred from our build fund?" Daniel stopped moving. "You said 2 or 3,000, I continued. "That number excludes the commercial card payments. Some of that came back." "Show me where." "I can. I just need the full records." "Then get them." He closed the folder and stared at its cover. "I was trying to build something for us. My job has been unstable for years. Northline was supposed to be a safety net. A safety net you hid from the person it was supposedly protecting. Because you would have said no. You didn't give me the opportunity. That was the first moment he looked angry rather than frightened. Do you know how exhausting it is to get every idea approved by you? You turn everything into a committee meeting. I almost defended myself. Then I remembered that he had put my name on a government filing without a committee meeting. I resigned as registered agent today, I said. Northline will receive notice. Do not put my name back. Daniel stood and carried the folder upstairs. 10 minutes later, I heard the bedroom door close. The next morning, the state business page showed a new filing submitted at 7:03 a.m. Daniel had replaced me as registered agent with Marissa. The address was no longer our house. It was a townhouse on Alder Creek Lane in Durham, 7 miles from the Northline office. I searched the address only far enough to confirm that it was residential. I did not drive there. I did not contact the neighbors. I added the filing to the folder and went to work. At 11:46, an email arrived in my Citi account from Marissa Cole. The subject line contained only Daniel's name. Claire, I'm sorry to contact you at work. Daniel told me not to, but he also told me you already knew about Northline and that the money was your investment. After the registered agent notice came through this morning, I realized at least one of those things was not true. I need you to answer one question before I decide what records I can send you. Has Daniel actually filed for divorce, or has he been lying to me about that too? I read the email until the words stopped looking like words. Then I closed my office door and called Maya. She told me to forward the message to her personal legal intake address and not to use my Citi account again. You may answer the factual question, she said. Keep it short. Do not accuse her, threaten her, or ask her to obtain records she is not authorized to share. From my personal email, I wrote, Daniel has not filed for divorce. We are not separated. He lives in our home, shares our bedroom, and was discussing construction plans with me this week. I did not know Northline existed until Tuesday. I have never authorized an investment in it. I am represented by counsel and will preserve any records you lawfully provide. Marissa answered 7 minutes later. I'm calling my attorney. I will not delete anything. I am sorry. I believed him. For the next 2 hours, I moved through a design review meeting while a different structure assembled itself in my mind. Daniel had not simply hidden a company. He had told its other owner that I was leaving our marriage. He had described our missing construction money as an investment I approved. The lies did not sit beside one another by accident. Each one supported the next. At 3:30, Maya called. Marissa had retained an attorney named Lorna Beck, and Lorna had contacted her. Both attorneys proposed a controlled exchange of documents relevant to marital funds and ownership claims. No client lists. No confidential bids. No private material unrelated to Daniel's representations. This is not a joint prosecution, Maya warned me. Marissa's interests may overlap with yours today and conflict tomorrow. Does she know about Noah? I asked. Apparently she knows he exists. I don't know what Daniel told her. I need to hear her version. Maya was quiet for a moment. You can participate in a video call with counsel present. If you do, listen before you argue. You are not required to comfort her. The call took place the next morning. Maya sat beside me in her conference room. Marissa appeared from another office with Lorna. Without the polished photograph and red dress, she looked tired and younger than I remembered. She began by placing her driver's license beside her face so nobody could later claim she had used a false identity. It was such a practical gesture that I nearly cried. I met Daniel at work 5 years ago, she said. Nothing romantic happened then. I left after a reorganization. About 2 years ago, he contacted me about starting Northline. He said he and Claire were living separately inside the same house while they worked out custody and finances. We were not, I said. Maya touched the edge of my notebook, reminding me to let Marissa finish. Marissa said Daniel told her I had proposed using part of our construction savings as startup capital because a successful company would increase what Noah eventually inherited. He said I did not want an ownership role because I worked for the city and wanted to avoid even the appearance of a conflict. That explanation was why he had listed me as registered agent. According to him, it gave me visibility without putting me in operations. I asked to meet you, Marissa said. More than once. He said you wanted communication to go through him until the divorce was filed. There was no divorce to file. She looked down. I know that now. Northline was not failing. It had billed just over $186,000 during the previous calendar year and had signed 4 continuing clients. After expenses, it had generated about $58,000 in profit. Daniel's quick report had shown only a small training contract and excluded the company's main operating account. Marissa had invested $31,000 of her own money. Daniel had contributed $26,000 from what he described as his agreed share of our family savings. He had also taken $42,000 in member distributions, depositing them into an individual account I could not see. Did any of the family money come back? I asked. Not to an account I knew belonged to both of you, Marissa said. Daniel had used some distributions to cover his part of the rent on Alder Creek Lane. The townhouse was leased in Marissa's name, but Daniel paid half. She had lived there for 11 months. He stayed 2 or 3 nights most weeks and 1 weekend a month. Those were the nights he told me he was visiting suppliers, attending inventory counts, or helping his father with repairs. Maya asked the question I had been avoiding. When did the business partnership become a romantic relationship? Marissa folded her hands and said it began 4 months after Northline was formed. She had initially refused Daniel because he still lived with me. He persuaded her only after showing her messages that appeared to come from my phone, giving him permission to move on. I had never written those messages. The screenshots used my photograph and full name, but the telephone number had been cropped away. Daniel had not merely lied about my choices. He had manufactured my consent. Lorna placed a packet on the table. The messages Daniel had shown Marissa were screenshots rather than exported conversations. My name and photograph appeared at the top, but the telephone number had been cropped away. In them, someone pretending to be me wrote that our marriage had been over for years, that we were waiting until Noah adjusted to elementary school, and that Daniel was free to move forward privately. The fake version of me sounded calm, practical, and faintly cold. Daniel had copied the tone I used in work emails. He even made her complain about committee meetings. He told Marissa I had started dating too. The imaginary man was a transportation planner named Stephen, and Daniel occasionally blamed my supposed weekends with Stephen when he needed to change plans at the townhouse. There is no Stephen, I said. Marissa pressed her lips together. He was very specific about him. Daniel is good with specifications. She knew Noah's birthday, his allergies, the name of his school, and that he loved bean experiments and anything involving dinosaurs. Daniel sent photographs and described himself as an active father trapped in an unfair temporary custody arrangement. He told her she could not meet Noah until our lawyers approved it. Marissa had purchased dinosaur sheets for the townhouse's second bedroom because Daniel said Noah would eventually stay there. The room had never been used. That detail hurt more than the rent. Daniel had not merely escaped into another house. He had prepared a place for our child inside the lie. Maya asked about conflicts involving Daniel's employer. Marissa said Northline had refused clients that sold directly to his company, but Daniel used relationships and knowledge developed through his job to locate prospects. She had repeatedly asked him to disclose the outside business. He claimed his supervisor knew and preferred not to document it. There was no written approval. It might violate workplace policy, but there was no evidence that he had steered a contract, taken a kickback, or accessed confidential files. The truth was serious enough without turning it into a crime story. At the end of the call, Marissa said, I would not have started a relationship with a married man who was still living as a husband. I know that doesn't repair anything for you. No, I said. It doesn't. She nodded. But I believed I was waiting for paperwork, not helping him deceive you. I believed that she believed it. That was not forgiveness. It was classification. Marissa had accepted convenient evidence because she wanted Daniel's story to be true. Daniel had manufactured the evidence and built a life that required both women to misunderstand the other. Before the call ended, Lorna sent Maya an investor presentation Daniel had prepared for a bank loan. One slide described Northline's origin funding, founder capital, $57,000. Family-supported launch with long-term expansion plan. Beneath the words was a photograph of the addition I had designed over our garage. Daniel had taken the image from my drafting software and labeled it Future Northline Home Office. The bedroom meant for my mother had become an executive workspace in his presentation. Another slide described me as a municipal design advisor who supported the company informally. My job title and professional reputation had been used to make Northline appear safer to a lender. Maya asked whether I had ever given Daniel permission to use the drawing. I had emailed him a copy because he was my husband and we were discussing our home. That was the only permission I had given. I left Maya's office with digital copies of the financial records relevant to our money, the fake messages, and the investor presentation. I did not take Northline's client information. Marissa and I did not exchange personal numbers or promise to help each other destroy Daniel. We agreed through our attorneys to preserve documents and correct false statements attributed to us. It was less dramatic than revenge and more useful. Daniel's car was already in the driveway when I reached home. He stood in the kitchen with his phone in one hand. "You talked to Marissa." It was not a question. With both attorneys present. "She had no right to give you company records." "She gave my attorney records involving my money and statements you attributed to me. If you think she violated the operating agreement, discuss it with your lawyer." "My lawyer?" He laughed once, without humor. "You turned a marriage problem into litigation in 3 days. You turned our marriage into a hidden company, a second address, and an invented boyfriend over 22 months. Daniel glanced toward the stairs. Noah was at an after-school program, but he still lowered his voice. "Marissa is angry. She is showing you things without context. What context makes the fake messages real?" His face changed. "Not surprise. Calculation. I never said you wrote them. You displayed my name and photograph. They were summaries. She wanted reassurance that you and I had discussed separating. We had never discussed separating. We had problems. Every marriage has problems. Problems are not permission." He walked to the refrigerator, opened it, and stood looking inside without taking anything. "I was going to tell you when Northline was stable." "Tell me what?" "That you had used our savings. That you were sleeping with Marissa. Or that you had designed a custody schedule for a divorce I didn't know was coming." "I never designed a custody schedule." "You told her Noah would sleep at Alder Creek Lane." The refrigerator door closed. "She told you about the room." "Yes. She bought those things without asking me." "Did you tell her Noah would eventually stay there?" Daniel did not answer. "Did you?" "I said that if you and I separated, I would need a place for him. While you were coming home to our bed and reviewing plans for my mother's room. I was trying to find the right time. You were waiting for the company to become valuable enough that you could choose which life benefited you more." Daniel's expression hardened. "You think Northline has no value because you didn't create it. It made real money. It could have paid back every dollar. It made money. You took $42,000 in distributions. None of it returned to our joint accounts. I reinvested some of it. The records show your townhouse payments, restaurants, travel, and an individual brokerage transfer. That last item had appeared in the bank material Marissa was authorized to provide because it originated as a Northline distribution." Daniel stared at me. "How much did she send?" "Enough. Claire, listen to me. Northline can still protect us. If you attack the company, you reduce the marital asset you claim you want protected. I have not attacked the company. I resigned from a role I never accepted and documented money you removed. You contacted my partner. Your partner contacted me after learning you lied to her too. For a second, neither of us spoke. The word partner hung there with both meanings intact. Daniel sat at the kitchen table and pressed his palms against his eyes. When he looked up, the anger had drained out of him. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Which part? Any of it. Northline was just an option at first. Marissa understood the market. We worked well together. Then things became personal. For months after you formed it. She gave you a timeline. She gave her attorney a timeline. Fine. 4 months. I should have stopped it. But you rented a townhouse instead. I needed somewhere to work. There is an office. Somewhere private. There is a second bedroom with dinosaur sheets. He looked away. I asked the question I had been postponing. Do you love her? Daniel rubbed his thumb along a scratch in the table. I care about her. That isn't what I asked. I don't know what love means in this situation. You knew what it meant well enough to let her build a future around you. He said he had felt invisible in our house and important at Northline. I told him feeling overlooked did not give him permission to steal our savings, manufacture my approval, or rehearse moving Noah into another home. Daniel said he had planned to explain everything once the company could repay us. I told him repayment would not restore the months he had taken from our family or make the false version of me disappear. He had financed secrecy, not security. The bank never received a final application, Daniel said. It was only a draft presentation. You still used my profession, my work, and my supposed approval. I can correct it. You cannot correct 22 months by editing a slide. Then tell me what you want. Tonight, I want you to sleep somewhere else. Tomorrow, I want your attorney to contact Maya. I want complete personal and business financial disclosure through the proper process. I also want you to stop discussing our marriage or future living arrangements with Noah until we agree on language that does not make him responsible. You can't throw me out of my house. I am asking you to leave tonight. I am not changing the locks, withholding your belongings, or keeping you from Noah. If you refuse, I will take him to my mother's after I speak to Maya. Daniel looked toward the family photographs in the hallway. You already decided. I decided I will not keep living normally while you decide which version of your life survives. He packed one suitcase. Before leaving, he stood in Noah's doorway for several minutes. Noah was still at the after-school program, so the room was empty. Daniel touched the wooden dinosaur on the dresser, the one Noah and I had painted at a museum workshop. I wondered whether he was thinking about the unused dinosaur sheets in Durham. He went to a hotel that night and to his father's house the following day. His father called me once, confused and embarrassed. Daniel had rarely visited during the weekends he claimed to be repairing his father's porch. I told him only that Daniel and I were dealing with serious financial and marital dishonesty and that Noah was safe. He did not ask me to forgive his son. Noah noticed the missing suitcase before dinner. Is Dad going on another trip? He asked. Dad is staying somewhere else for a little while because we have an adult problem to work through. Is it because my plant died? No, sweetheart. Nothing about this is because of you. Did he do something bad? I chose the most accurate answer a 6-year-old could carry. He made choices that hurt our family, and the adults are getting help to decide what happens next. Noah nodded as if I had explained a weather warning. Then he asked whether Daniel would still come to his Saturday soccer game. Daniel came. He stood on the opposite side of the field and cheered when Noah touched the ball. We did not speak until the game ended. On Sunday evening, Maya forwarded a proposal from Daniel's new attorney. Daniel would provide full records and restore $26,000 to the build fund immediately. In return, I would sign a statement saying that the original Northline contribution had been a voluntary family investment and that my appearance in the lender presentation had been authorized. The statement would help preserve a financing application and reduce the ownership dispute. Daniel was offering to return money that was already marital property if I agreed to convert his lie into the truth on paper. I wrote Maya one sentence: I will not sell him my consent after he spent 2 years counterfeiting it. The proposal disappeared. Full disclosure took nearly 3 months. A forensic accountant traced the $26,000 from our savings, $42,000 in distributions, and $9,000 in reimbursements for costs first charged to our joint card. Some money remained in Daniel's brokerage account, some had paid legitimate Northline expenses, and almost $16,000 had covered the townhouse, private travel, meals, and furnishings. The accountant separated business investment, marital property, and personal consumption. Precision was slower than outrage, but it gave Daniel fewer places to hide. Northline had real value, and its clients had not participated in the deception. Marissa and Daniel could no longer work together, so their attorneys used the deadlock process in the operating agreement. An independent evaluator priced the company based on revenue, liabilities, and the fact that much of its goodwill depended on Marissa's daily work. She offered to purchase Daniel's interest through a structured buyout, with part of the payment held in escrow until my marital claim was resolved. He accepted rather than force a dissolution that might leave both owners with less. Marissa did not steal the company, and I did not destroy it. Daniel made partnership impossible, then discovered that owning 51% could not force another person to trust him. Marissa continued under a new name. Through our attorneys, she confirmed that she had removed my drawing, biography, and every statement implying my support. I answered, "Thank you for correcting the record." That was all we owed each other. Daniel's employer learned about Northline during its annual conflict review, not from me. It found no manipulated contracts, but it found undisclosed outside work and use of professional contacts for personal business development. Daniel received a warning and was moved out of vendor selection. His career did not vanish. He lost the automatic trust he had treated as permanent. Trust was withdrawn from specific places in our family too. Daniel no longer handled shared bills or made unilateral decisions about Noah's schedule. We used a parenting application until we could speak without arguing. A counselor helped us explain that Mom and Dad would live in different homes and neither home was a punishment. Daniel rented a 2-bedroom apartment near Noah's school. For months, Noah asked whether his father would return after each overnight visit. I never told him about the unused room on Alder Creek Lane. That fact belonged to the adults. Protecting Noah did not require pretending Daniel had behaved honorably. It required refusing to make a 6-year-old administer the consequence. During mediation, Daniel finally gave me an explanation that sounded less polished. He had wanted Northline, Marissa, and the possibility of leaving, but he also wanted our house, daily life with Noah, and the security of knowing I would solve practical problems. He planned to wait until the company supported him, then announced that our marriage had been failing for years. I kept thinking I needed 6 more months, he said. 6 months to make the choice less damaging. Less damaging to you, I said. He nodded. Daniel had not been confused between 2 lives. He knew they were incompatible. He expected both women, his son, and the financial records to remain in place until he selected the most comfortable exit. Our settlement restored the diverted principal to the marital estate and included Daniel's buyout in the property division. I did not recover every dollar, and he did not leave penniless. The law did not convert betrayal into perfect repayment. I kept the house by refinancing it and paying Daniel his agreed equity. Part of the settlement went into an education account for Noah. The rest became an expensive lesson in the difference between access and permission. The divorce became final 14 months after the state notice arrived. My mother's health had stabilized, and the garage addition remained on hold. The contractor later called because material prices had fallen and he still had my drawings. I watched Noah building a cardboard city on the patio. Not that version, I told him. If I build anything, I'm going to draw it again. I kept the original drawing, but I removed the copy Daniel had labeled for Northline. Reclaiming it did not require pretending the design had never been misused. It meant accepting that the same lines could belong to a different future once I chose what they were for. Almost exactly 1 year after I resigned as registered agent, another state envelope arrived. It confirmed that neither my name nor my home address remained attached to Northline. The renamed company was active at a commercial address, with Marissa as its owner. Daniel was not listed. The system that had exposed his second life now showed, in plain black letters, that I was no longer part of it. I placed the confirmation in the final divorce folder and went outside to help Noah reinforce the paper bridge connecting the two halves of his city. The bridge did not pretend the neighborhoods were one place. It allowed him to move safely between them. I did not win by ruining Northline or taking everything Daniel owned. I won when my name, my money, my work, and my decisions belonged to me again.